Hello, everybody. It's been a long time since I made a video like this. Long-time viewers of my channel will know in the past, sometimes I just like to talk unscripted about certain upcoming movies, and I've made videos in the past about the 2020 film adaptation of The Witches, as well as the 2022 film adaptation of Uncharted. And in both of these cases, these are movies that I was sort of following for a while because I had a vested interest in the source material and I really wanted the movie to do the source material justice. And interestingly enough, in both cases, I found the finished product to be enjoyable. I liked them fine when I saw them, and then I haven't really revisited them. So I get the sense that the same thing's going to happen with this movie that I'm talking about here. We live in an age of constant remakes, and interesting subgenre of that is live action remakes of animated films. And we know that a Moana is coming. We know that a Lilo and Stitch is coming, and in Moana's case specifically, I think it's a ridiculous idea, and I think it has not been nearly long enough for that one. But we do have an interesting situation regarding the upcoming remake of How to Train Your Dragon. This was actually announced a few months ago. Dean DeBlois, who was one of the co-directors of the original film and went on to solo direct the second and third film, is solo directing this one, I believe. And the announcement that this was happening came out a couple months ago, and I didn't say anything at the time. I don't know, I think I didn't want to acknowledge that this was real, but at the same time, I was also like, is there any chance in the world that I can play Hiccup? That was my number one priority right out of the gate. And so as of right now, we know that's not happening. Casting has been announced for the roles of Hiccup and Astrid. And so now I want to talk about it. I think that seeing this initial casting choice is actually somewhat intriguing me in this product. Now, for all the things we can say about live action remakes being pointless, and they kind of are, this is interesting because How to Train Your Dragon is one of my all-time favorite movies, and it is a movie that is very important to me growing up for reasons that because I'm autistic and because I saw a lot of myself in Hiccup, who I think is very autistic coded in the film, and I think it's just a great film. I don't want to get into the whole details of that, but it's funny. I love that first movie so much, and Dean DeBlois, of course, went on to solo direct the second and third movies, and personally, I think there is a sharp decline in quality in those sequels. So you might very well be asking, well, if you don't like the sequels, then why would you be even remotely excited in a remake? Because I just love the story that much. And when you love a story, it is a little bit intriguing to see that story done in a new way. It's kind of like, think of it like if you really love a stage play, and you really, really love this play, and you're like, oh, I'm going to see another production of it at another venue with a different cast. And I'm curious to see how they handle this material. That's kind of where the mindset is. Like, this is not going to replace the original. This is not going to surpass the original. The original will always be around. But let's see how somebody else, or technically not somebody else, it's the same director, but let's see what they do with this story. Let's see. I'm curious, because as much as I love the original film, even I admit not everything about it is perfect. And I think I'm going to get into that a little bit. Also, these live-action remakes tend to be significantly longer than the animated films, and I know a lot of people say, oh, it's just needless padding. But for me, because I love the original story, and I love just these characters in the world of Burke, at least in that first movie, then I am intrigued. Take as much time as you need. Like, let's flesh out these characters a little bit more and look at this story from some different angles. Like, give me a 4-hour cut. I don't care. I just love this world. And so I am oddly excited. And that brings us to the casting choices itself, which is what really got me interested. So The role of Hiccup will be played by Mason Thames, and the role of Astrid will be played by Nico Parker. Now, Mason Thames is 15 years old. No, he's turning 15 very shortly in the summer. And Nico Parker is 18, which is weird because she looks significantly younger. But so these are not two people in their mid-20s playing these characters, as you see so often. And in the animated film, it was definitely Jay Baruchel, America Ferrera, and the others were all adults. And so I am intrigued by seeing these young performers that are like actually kids playing these kids, and to bring it's going to be a different energy for sure. Because one of the things that I consider a flaw in the original animated film is Jay Baruchel. I don't think he's bad in the movie, but like that voice can get a little bit grating at times. And to see an actual kid who I hope is not going to do a Jay Baruchel impression, I'm curious to see this take on the character. And with him in particular, his name I believe is pronounced Mason Thames, although it would be funny if his name was Mason Thames, because Mason tames a dragon. That's the logline for the movie right there. And he starred in the horror movie The Black Phone, which I have not seen. I might see it, but horror really isn't my genre. And from the looks of it, he is a little bit on... I don't know, I don't necessarily look at the character in that movie and immediately think Hiccup, but clearly this is a talented actor who already seems to have gotten a pretty large fan base for himself. So, yeah, I'm definitely open to seeing what he can do. And Nico Parker, obviously she just played Sarah in HBO's TV adaptation of The Last of Us, and even though the characters of Sarah and Astrid are two very, very different types of characters, I am really excited to see what she is going to do in this role. And with a little bit more screen time, I imagine, in the original animated movie, the Hiccup-Astrid relationship is kind of sidelined a bit to make way for the Hiccup-Toothless relationship and the Hiccup-Stoic relationship. And so it would be interesting to see Astrid get a little bit more development, a little bit more agency. And I'm excited to see what she brings to the role. The fact that she's a little bit older than Mason, I think helps. I think it makes sense to have Astrid be a little bit older. But again, two actors who are young in that age range, and I have to address the fact that Nico Parker is half black, which means Burke is going to be a little bit more diverse than it is in the original animated film when everyone is white. And I understand from a historical perspective, this is 11th century Scandinavia, and you're not going to see a lot of diversity, but historically you're also not going to see a lot of dragons. So, like, it's kind of stupid to complain about that. I think that there's no reason why Burke can't be a little bit more diverse in this movie if they want to... as long as they're casting the right people for the right roles and not just checking off a box. And I do think Nico Parker is an interesting choice, and I'm curious to see what she does in this part. I feel like I know her work more than I know Mason's work, and so that's probably going to check out more of that. But I am very intrigued by what both of them do. One thing I will mention is that both of them... So Mason Thames, an American actor who does an American accent in The Black Phone, and Nico Parker, she is Australian, and she is doing a American accent in Last of Us. So the accent work is interesting because, as has been pointed out in the original animated film, all of the adults on Burke have thick Scottish accents, and none of the kids do. And I believe the filmmakers have said this was a deliberate choice in order to further emphasize the generational divide. I do think in a live-action film it might be a little bit more difficult to swallow, and it would be interesting to hear them speak with authentic accents, but I do understand that because this franchise has been around for so long, it might be difficult for fans to accept, Hiccup and Astrid suddenly speaking with Scottish accents. So, by the looks of this casting, I can assume that both Hiccup and Astrid will continue to have American accents. Now, so far, these are the only two roles that have been cast, and I can imagine that Snotlout, Fishlegs, Tough Nut, and Rough Nut are also going to be cast with actors in a similar age range, and I do have some actors in mind, but I'm not going to say them here because I'm very open to casting young, unknown talent that I'm not, like, I don't have an eye out for. And I will say for the roles of Gobber and Stoic, for Gobber, I'm just going to throw out the name Nick Frost. I think he would be a good choice for that. And then Stoic. Now, this is interesting. Because you're getting these young, up-and-comer kids for Hiccup and Astrid, I think Hollywood is going to demand a name actor for Stoic. Someone who is a big draw and can, like, be responsible for, like, promoting hey, we can sell the movie on this big name actor. And I sort of thought about it, and the Stoic needs to be someone who has an intimidating presence, has a strong build, can play the angry Viking, but also the troubled father. And the person that I landed on is Hugh Jackman. Now, I do think Gerard Butler could feasibly still do it, but I don't know. I guess I want to try something a little bit different, and I think Jackman, from his previous work, I would be interested to see what he could do with it. And another choice that I thought of is Jackman's Les Mis co-star Russell Crowe, but I don't know if he could do the level of emotion that is needed for it, and I think Jackman could really provide something interesting for the part. And so, okay, so yeah, Jackman as Stoic. Now, there's one other character that needs to be addressed here, and I think the movie's going to live or die by this choice. I think this is critical to whether the film is good or not. I fully believe that the character of Toothless needs to be played by a human actor through motion capture, as opposed to a fully CG creation. Now, one might wonder why I think this is so important, because obviously Toothless in the animated film is a purely CG creation. But I think in live action we have the potential to go a little bit deeper with that and with the character. Because if you look at the sequels and the future installments of How to Train Your Dragon, there is this worrying trend of Toothless being played basically as an oversized dog and this cartoonishly comedic relief, overtly cute. And Toothless in the animated film does have elements of that, but the character does have a certain dignity, he does have intelligence, and he does have a soul, which is really important because Hiccup has not been able to make a connection with anyone on Berk until he meets Toothless and is able to form a connection into him. Hiccup sees something in those eyes that he can sympathize with and can relate with, and there is a genuine bond. And in order for that to work, I don't think we can have Mason Thames just acting opposite a ball on a stick and it can be the right level of emotion. I want to see an Andy Serkis, Terry Notary type actor with the dots on their face genuinely acting opposite Mason Thames and making a real bond and a real connection. I think that is the reason to do this story in live action, and I'm not going to specify like which actor in general I want to cast, but I think it's really, really important that they get the right actor for that. And so, yeah, it is funny because I don't have it's not like I have a ton of suggestions of here's what to do, here's what not to do, but it is funny because a lot of people are saying, why on earth are we doing this? This is stupid. The animated movie is fine. Don't fix what's not broken. Why is there this worrying trend? And maybe it is a bit of a worrying trend, but I don't know. I'm curious if someone is like a super fan of Moana and they love that, then maybe they're a little bit intrigued as to what the live action remake could do. Just to see the story again and to see slightly different versions of the characters because you just love the story so much. And I'm not saying that this is going to replace the animated film, it could never do that, but I am curious as to what other angles you can go from it. One thing that I didn't say is I'm curious what you're gonna do with Snot Loud Fish Legs, Rough Nut, and Tough Nut in the sense that the older I get, the more it does kind of bother me that these characters relentlessly bully Hiccup and mock Hiccup, and then as soon as he becomes cool and popular, they drop that and start being nice to him. And I, by the end, was supposed to believe that like they're all friends, but to quote John Mulaney, that doesn't erase the abuse. Like I kind of maybe a little bit more nuance from that, and maybe a little bit more nuance from Astrid's POV. I do think there's some interesting stuff to get into here, and as long as you don't like put in too much foreshadowing for the second and third movie, it just occurred to me now that that's totally something Dean DeBlois would do. You know what? If you do decide to make the second movie and you want to have that for the dancing and the dreaming scene, at least you've got Hugh Jackman, so you've got an actor who can actually sing instead of Gerard Butler. So we're already a step in the right direction. Okay, so yeah, I probably shouldn't be excited for this, but I'm gonna cross my fingers and hope that this is okay, and hope that I can like get excited for How to Train Your Dragon again. And I'm gonna try to be open to changes. Like, I think if you want to rewrite some of the dialogue or like find new angles, both with the camera and with the story, focus on different character moments, and like, I don't know. I'm curious to see. I'm not going to ask for everything to be exactly the same, except for the Forbidden Friendship scene. I think the Forbidden Friendship scene is, in my opinion, it is my favorite movie scene of all time. And when we get to that scene, that's the one time I'm going to be like, nope, shot for shot, identical. I just don't fix what's not broken. It's perfect. Why would you change anything about it? And everything else you can experiment with, you can do different things with, but just keep Forbidden Friendship the same. Yeah. Let me know your thoughts. I'm really curious to hear them. Thanks for watching.